What better way to enjoy those consoles than on an Altoro Dune sofa with a reversible chase? Again, for $19.99 per week. $19.99. Rent-A-Center has a worry-free guarantee, free same-day delivery, and competitor price matching. Rent-A-Center, located in the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, where the 10 and the 210 meet between the Alabama and Tennessee exits. Rent-A-Center, $19.99 per week. Sale price is valid until October 28th.
Good morning, everyone. This is Reverend Irma Forward, and I have with us today our magnificent practitioner, Jean Kennedy.
Thank you so much.
And she's fabulous, and we're happy to have her with us today. We also have our wonderful engineer, Rick. Thank you, Rick, for being here. It is fabulous. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. We know that you're special, and we have a special reading for you today that Jean's going to present to us in just a minute. But we want to welcome all of you to your spiritual magnificence, because you are a magnificent being, and we want you to really magnify yourself and praise yourself and give yourself thanks just for being who you are in the grand scheme of things. For who you are is absolutely wonderful right where you are at this very moment. So we invite you to embrace yourself in a lot of love, and take the time today to embrace Mom in whatever way that you can. If she's not with you here in the physical reality, but just pull up a memory that is very sacred to you and embrace that memory. And if your mom is on the other coast of the United States, give her a call, send her some flowers, send her some chocolates, because she is, they tell me, responsible for who you are. Does that sound right, Jean?
It does.
It does. Moms are special. And Rick is agreeing with us on that. Moms are so very special. So we...
yeah, I called my mama, so there. I called her and
that's-
told her I loved her on the other coast, so
Thank
there.
you. Thank you, Rick. We admire you for doing that. Okay. And this program is presented to you by the Center for Spiritual Enrichment, and we're honoring the memory of the mother of the Center for Spiritual Enrichment, Reverend Sue Constantinides. And so our purpose today is to present to you this idea of new thought, which embraces you as an individual. We determine that you don't really sin. You perhaps make an error. You make a mistake. The sin is in not learning from that experience, whatever that may be. And so in honor of our mothers this morning, we have a reading that Jean is going to present to us at this time.
Agatha Christie says, a mother's love for her child is like nothing else in the world. It knows no law, no pity. It dares all things and crushes down remorsefully all that stands in its path. Mother, being the supreme lover, loves her child like nothing. A mother dissipates the clouds of darkness and cause peace to return to our hearts when we are helpless in the wilderness life, with her kind precepts and counsels. From the moment we are born till we are cradled in the chariot of death, we come across many relations. Some are just for the time being, some are to betray you, some are to leave you alone when you need their presence the most. Some are with you just because of your attributes, and some are compelled to stick with you due to blood relation, compulsion, and restrictions. But there is one being who surpasses the love, care, and affection of anyone related to you, and she is the mother. The love of mother has no match, nor can one replace her love. A mother's ageless love and care cannot be exemplified. When you were in her womb, she took every step so gently and carefully not to bother you from your deep sleep. This abysmal depth of a mother's love is immeasurable. Says Abraham Lincoln, all that I am or ever hope to be, I owe to my angel mother. To me, my mother is my security blanket. No matter how bad of a day she had, she will always be there with a shoulder to cry on and a sympathetic ear for me. Even if she's been screamed at all day, she will still be eager to hear my drama-filled gossips. My mom is my personal miracle. Whenever something becomes too much for me, she is there calming me down with just a hug and a kiss on my forehead. So she's always there to comfort.
Oh, how special. So we know that moms are there to comfort. They're there, and they comfort in so many ways. They listen to us when we're growing up and listen to our, what at that time may be nonsensical, gossip, so to speak, as it says there in the reading. And they're just supporting us and giving us a platform and being a model, a good role model for us. So we say once again, Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. And we invite you to embrace yourself as a special mom, because you are absolutely special to someone. And we give thanks for that. Now, Jean is going to center us in prayer for our program this morning, and we invite you, Jean, to go ahead with that.
Join me now as we recognize the truth of our perfection, which is that of God, that each one of us is part of that divine being. And today, we learn with fellowship in our lessons, and that I speak for each and every one of us, that this is a great, wonderful day. And I give thanks for this, and I say thank you, God, and I release my word knowing that it's done, and so it is.
And so it perfectly is. Thank you. Okay, and so now our musical inspiration this morning is from the gospel tradition. It is Have Thine Own Way, Lord, and it is performed by the Morgan State University Choir. this song. When we are capable and able to just relax and let Spirit work through us, let Spirit have its way with us, we actually, as it says in the song, we're the clay and God molds us to its will. And we do that quite easily. We can fall into that by listening to the whispers from Spirit, as I always say. It's just fabulous. It's wonderful. It gives me excitement for the day. And we'll be talking just a little bit more about that as we move into our lesson today, which is this. This is our lesson title. To be human is to embody paradox.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. And so we have a description of paradox, but first we want to acknowledge that we're both human and spirit. We're kind of a mashup of divine perfection and human flaws. And the personal challenge for each of us is to live with this paradox, to overcome our human errors while seeking the fuller expression of divine perfection. So, Jean, can you tell me what is paradox? I think we have 4 definitions here. What is paradox?
Paradox is a statement or proposition that seems self-contradictory or absurd, but in reality expresses a possible truth.
Okay.
A self-contradictory and false proposition. Any person, thing, or situation exhibiting an apparently contradictory nature.
Okay.
An opinion of statement contrary to commonly accepted opinion. The paradox may establish a certain amount of spiritual freedom.
How about that? And we're going to get into that right now. So, how do you feel right now? Do you feel free? You see, this is a great day for beginning the road to personal freedom. So let's make up our minds that this is what we're doing today. We're on the road to personal freedom. And right now, at this very moment, this is an exciting moment to be in the history of our lives. You see, our lives all have history, and we don't always acknowledge that. But we do have history in each of our lives. And so we want to choose to make it so by embracing the paradoxes in life. We want to embrace them because we learn from them. There's a learning curve that goes on there. Now, what does H.L. Mencken say about that? Wait a minute. Hold on.
What?
I'm going to tell you what he said.
Okay.
Okay. He says that the average man does not want to be free. He simply wants to be safe. Now, being safe means not exploring a lot of experiences life has to offer. It means not taking risks to achieve that which is perhaps waiting to express as our highest good, even though it may not be safe. So we have to be very careful. We have to step out of the box, so to speak. And I always say that we need to throw the box away because it kind of confines us. We just need to step out of it, throw the box away, act as if it didn't exist, and step out into being able to express freedom. And so I believe that everyone that is listening to us this morning, everyone that is around our station here today, are here to learn first to be spiritually free, and secondly, to have a sense of freedom, which will create positive feelings about their lives. And so in order to do that, I would invite you to just relax for a moment and just simply know that I'm affirming a personal prayer for me, and it relates back to our opening song. Have thy way with me, Lord. Have thy way in me. Have thy way in my thoughts, my actions, my feelings, and in my decisions. Have thy way in me, Lord, and have thy way in me. We are ready. We're excited and non-resistant to this healing, loving experience. And we go forward in the spirit of Christ consciousness. And so it is. Now, H.L. Mencken also says that I believe that liberty is the only genuinely valuable things that humans have invented, at least in the field of government in 1,000 years. I believe that it is better to be free than to not be free, even when the former is dangerous and the latter is safe. I believe that the finest qualities of a human can flourish only in free air, and that progress made under the shadow of the policeman's club is false progress and of no permanent value. I believe that any human who takes the liberty of another into his keeping is bound to become a tyrant, and that any human who yields up his liberty, in however slight the measure, is bound to become a slave. So we celebrate our inner freedom today from oppression and limitations so that we can grow and change and develop as a spiritual people. We love to experience all the things that the Absolute has already provided for us. We cannot do that if we are not thinking freely. If we find ourselves in bondage, if we are holding ourselves back or limiting ourselves by not acknowledging the seeming paradoxes of life. Now, in biblical scripture, in John, the 8th chapter and the 31st verse, Jesus said, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." The spiritual truth is that there is not a spot where God is not. Therefore, Spirit is with you every moment of the day, and that knowledge and awareness will make it safe for you to explore the known and the unknown. And so let us define freedom here. Do we think that freedom means that we can do anything we want to do? We've heard people say, and especially teenagers coming, after they're trying to define themselves, they say, "This is my life and I'll live it as I please. You can't tell me what to do with my life. I'm a free person. How dare you try to limit me?" I can remember hearing teenagers say something very similar to that. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure that I might not have been one of them at that time in my life. Okay. What is a recipe for adolescent salad? What is that recipe, Jean?
Lettuce alone.
Lettuce. That's salad. Lettuce alone. Frederick Douglass wisely said, "Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are often people who want crops without plowing the ground."
Oh, that makes sense.
And they want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the roar of its many waters. The struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. Okay. So I invite you this morning also to think of the story of the prodigal son. The son said, "I want to be free. Give me," I can hear some kids now saying, "Give me my money."
Yep.
But he said, "Give me my inheritance so I can go about my own business and do what I want to be." And so I kind of paraphrase that a little bit, okay? But as the biblical story goes on, we read about all the mistakes that this son has made until he comes to realize the truth. Gandhi spoke these words, and he said, "Freedom is not worth having if it does not connote the freedom to err." So we have the right, we have the ability to make an error if that error is going to enhance our growth as a person, enhance our level of integrity, and to embrace ourselves as who we are. Human life does make mistakes. And that is okay as long as we learn from those mistakes, correct our course direction, and rise higher. Many times we see freedom as the opportunity to spread our wings and express our own individual, personal self, irrespective of where it takes us, no matter what it means to us. A person being paroled from prison might say that he or she is now free. Of course, they're free and they're no longer incarcerated and can move about the nation and do the things that they could not do while they were in prison. Adolescents leaving home for the first time surely could say that they are free. Can you identify with that, Jean? I could when I left home. When I was young, I knew that I was ready to go, and I said, I'm free. After all, my mother and my father didn't know nearly as much as I wanted them to know. Now, what happened is, as I became older, they became wiser. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah, you can relate to that. Now, there are times in our lives, and especially early in our years, when we want to do our own thing. So we say, I want freedom. I want to get out of this house. I want to do my own thing. I want to make my own mistakes. And at that time, there's a little bit of wisdom that is showing forth because we realize that we may make mistakes. As the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, surely they must have felt free from the bondage that they expressed in Egypt. Truly, they felt free. And I want to give you a working definition of freedom. And Jean, I'm inviting you to let us know what freedom is in this paragraph here.
Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. Freedom is a quality or a state of being without thought or resistance, restraint, bondage, limitation, or repression, having a sense of complete well-being. It is the result of regulating one's life according to divine principle, not according to what everyone else may think or say. Freedom is not something that anybody can just be given. Freedom is something people take, and people are as free as they want to be.
Okay, thank you. So this means that we want to understand that freedom is freely given to us. We just have to reach out and accept it, or, just grab it, so to speak. We want to be free. Now, does this mean that you don't have to listen to other people, or that you can follow a principle and let it work for you, or that you can do the opposite of what other people think I should do? Has anyone ever tried to advise you and you did just the opposite thing? That sounds familiar. Okay. Has this ever happened to you? I know it has. You made the greatest progress when you followed your guidance from God, not that outer prompting that often comes to us. Now, the politician and civil rights activist Jesse Jackson has said, no one should negotiate their dreams. Dreams must be free to flee and fly high. No government, no legislature has a right to limit your dreams. You should never agree to surrender your dreams. And we want to know that sometimes we do, because other people have another idea of who they think you should be. But guess what? They're not you. They're not you, as I understand it. So we want to be free from bondage, and we can be free from what is known as slavery. So let me give you a working definition of bondage. And I'm quoting here: undue attachments to thoughts in lower personal consciousness. Okay? So what that simply means is that bondage gives you an attachment to something that you really don't want, but it's there in consciousness. And we'll go on and explore this idea a little bit further. And in Scripture, in Matthew, the 16th chapter, the 19th verse, it says, whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever shall be loosed on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Now let me give you a definition of God's truth. That which is, has been, and always will be. The straight and narrow path on which Spirit directs. That which accords with God's divine standard. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that's from John, the 8th chapter and the 32nd verse. But can't we have it both ways? Why can't we enjoy life and do all the things that we want to do without changing? Why can't we? Okay, Rick's agreeing with me there. Why can't we just read a book on spirituality and say, all right, I've read the book. Now I'm God's truth in action. Why do I have to pay a price for change? Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? Why do I have to make a different approach to life? Well, we do that, and we say these kind of things. We read many books, and they're in the literature of today. They're called self-help books. You know, we read those books, and oh, this sounds wonderful. This sounds really good, and you put the book down, and that's it. You move on to another book, perhaps. Okay, but what happens is that we have to practice what is taught in the book in order for change to take place. So you see, in the past, we have found ourselves in bondage, and you can be in bondage for so long that you get used to it. You have always acted a certain way, and so you've always been limited, and you get accustomed to what? To being limited. That happens to us. And so we do things constantly the same way of doing things. You know, we have the same routine for getting up in the morning. We get up and we do the same thing. We eat the same cereal every morning. We don't think that it's necessary to make a change. But there are so many flavors that can tantalize the taste buds now for cereal. Cereal used to be very boring. It really did. But it's really good now, I think. And so there are many ways to do things. So we don't want to be in bondage to just one cereal type. We want to explore others. So it's like being in a prison cell and not knowing that you are in a cell and not knowing that the door to that cell is unlocked. You see, we stay there, we exist there and function there, not knowing that we can change and do wonderful things with our lives. And the one thing that is frequently missing is a wonderful personal relationship with Spirit, with the source of all things that there are. There is an innate desire in each of us. It is like God knocking at your door saying, listen, my child, I'm here. You think you've made it now? However, if you put your hand in my hand, I'll show you things you haven't even dreamed of. And it goes on to say, prove me now herewith, and I will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. Friends, life is about soul growth. There are easy classrooms and the school of hard knocks, and we decide which one we will enroll in. Now, I used to hear the older people in our community when I was growing up and say, yeah, you got to go through the school of hard knocks. And I'm saying, what is that? I didn't quite understand what they meant when they said hard knocks, but I do now. Those are those life experiences that we find ourselves in. And sometimes they're negative experiences and we know better, but we've been pulled in by outside forces, by people, by our peers who tell us, hey, you want to do this, that, or the other, or you should do this, that, or the other. And it is directly contrary to what your consciousness says, to what your intelligence says that you should be participating in. And so we want to continually be careful and allow ourselves not to necessarily experience the school of hard knocks unless we just want to. Okay, so sooner or later Life will bring what I call a cattle prod that will nudge you the way you need to be nudged. And it comes as an experience and nudges you as no human could. Sometimes they call it the cosmic 2x4.
Yeah, because it gets you right across the head.
Yeah, it gets you right across the head. And so it nudges you towards your God-given good. It makes all the difference in the world. How much easier is life when we go to God first to pray about our direction, our action, and reaction to life. And again, it goes back to that song that we talked about earlier. Have thine own way with me, Lord. You see, and when you are allowing Spirit to give you that spiritual direction, then you are able to live from a point of authenticity. You're able to live the authentic life. Freedom is not being free to do the things that you should not do. Freedom is doing the things that are in your best interest and the best interest of life itself. But the mind is filled with the accumulated doubts of the ages, as though a vast abyss of doubt, fear, and uncertainty were standing between you and your desires. And that quote is from Ernest Holmes in This Thing Called You. And what he says once again is that the mind is filled with the accumulated doubts of the ages, as though a vast abyss of doubt, fear, and uncertainty were standing between you and your desires. He goes on to say, you are an eternal being now on the pathway of endless fulfillment, never less, but always more of yourself. So you see, spirituality is more of a journey towards acceptance than an attempt at perfection. Self-love and acceptance is the key to growth. Without it, you cannot move forward in life. And denial will keep you stuck, repeating the same negative pattern over and over and over again. So what happens here is that if you're overweight, you accept it. And sometimes, because I know that I've been in a position of weighing just a little bit more than I should, and I've accepted it, and continue to overeat, is what that amounts to. So we have to be very careful about those kind of things and not repeat the same negative pattern over and over again. Being overweight just simply isn't healthy. If you have a history of addiction, you accept that as well. Well, I can't do anything about it. It's just the way that I am. Those addictions can take the form of drugs. It can take the form of being addicted to a certain news program and not opening yourself up to anything new. You can be certain addiction to a pattern, a way of doing things, and not be willing to change. Because change takes you out of what appears to be comfort, but if you step over into something new, you might find a level of transcendent comfort there as well. So we want to be careful about that. Emerson observes that there's a crack in everything God has made, and it is through that crack where God enters. You see? That crack is there for God to come in and do its magnificent work in and through you. And perhaps our open wounds are an open invitation to healing. Think about that. Our open wounds are an invitation to healing. And so the bold step is to take change one day at a time. Take charge of it also, one day at a time. Persistent, constant progress is what we're looking for instead of many starts and stops. With God's help, even the turtle crosses the finish line and many times wins the race. Did you ever have a turtle? Mm-hmm. I have too, and I love little turtles. They go in and out of their little hard shell, but they come out and see what's going on around them, and they do finish the race. Now, your human story may not be as interesting as you think. We all have our wounds and challenges in life. They're common to everyone. What makes you different is your determination to separate the belief from the believer. You are not in this life to succumb to human tragedy. You are here to triumph over it. The command of the universe is upward and onward to the greater good. And so our affirmation this morning is that I am a spiritual being living through an imperfect human experience. I am guided into wholeness by the divine. And so you see, within all people, within you, there is a power and a capacity for full and interesting living of life. We discover this and set about developing and calling forth these God-given powers. We have no further desire for any of the superficial things of life. And so, through prayer, we discover this new and satisfying way of life. Through prayer, we find such a way. Prayer reaches to the depth of the mind and heart and reveals the truth of what fulfillment is, what it can be. And so we invite you to move yourself whenever it is comfortable, whenever you're feeling uncomfortable. We invite you to move into that sacred space of prayer and to know exactly who you are, a child of the universe expressing the magnificence of God in and through you at this very moment. And for this we give thanks, and so it is.
And so it is.
And our musical inspiration is Peter Mayer, and he's singing Holy Now.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Oh, that's very powerful. And he was addressing some of the paradoxes in life that we are attached to as we're young, and then we grow up and we become wiser. Just as our moms have become so much wiser as we have become so much older. And so I invite you now to be with us in prayer as Jean will speak a word of affirmation for people that have requested prayer from us. We have a team of other people who pray with us, and just simply know that your prayers are being considered and we're looking at them. And if you have a need, feel free to go to our Facebook page, put your name there along with your request for prayer, and we will get right on it.
Wake Up Awareness.
Yes, and our webpage is Wake Up Awareness. Our Facebook page is Wake Up Awareness. And so, okay, Jean, if you would go ahead with that right now. Let's just be still.
Join with me as we recognize the spiritual truth of perfection, that each one of us is a divine part of God, that God expresses and manifests through us and through our experiences. And this morning, as I say my word for those that need prayer, that we know and understand and realize that this is God's truth in action for each person. For Patty with an I, Patty with a Y, for Josie and Joe, for Billy and Luthien, June and family, for Susan and Brian, for Pam, for Molly, for Mark, for Bryce, for every church, synagogue, mosque, and all spiritual centers teaching truth, and for Neona and her family, sending Neona on her path, freed her to her greater yet to be. We know that there's no negative thoughts, that there is love, hope, light. Everyone is open and receptive to receive whatever they need here and now, whether it be good health, well-being, perfect harmony, understanding, and divine wisdom. And for all of this, I know that this is the truth for each and every person. And I say thank you, God. And I release my word, knowing that it is so and it is done here and now. And so it is.
And so it perfectly is. Thank you, Jean, for that. And I want to just segue a little bit onto the prayer. As we mentioned, Neona, a very good friend of this ministry, and one of the people responsible for encouraging us to step forward into this ministry and to just take it on with all the power that we had. She has moved on to another expression of life. She transcended this earthly plane on Friday. And so we're sending her on her way, knowing that she's going to make a difference wherever she is. And that we're supporting her family at this time. Very wonderful, wonderful people. And we also want to thank John and Jackie and Cheryl. They're always listening, and we're just delighted with that. And thank you for being there for us. Our affirmation this morning is, I am a spiritual being living through an imperfect human experience. However, I am guided into wholeness by the divine. So let's see if we can all say that together.
All righty.
Okay. All right, Rick, are you ready?
Yep,
All right.
I am ready to roll. Let's do it.
Okay. I am a perfect spiritual being living through an imperfect human experience. However, I am guided into wholeness by the divine. That's fabulous. It is wonderful. And we are always guided into our spiritual perfection, into our spiritual wholeness. Sometimes we feel cracked and broken, but if we are just simply still and simply listen, we will find our way so much easily. So easy. It is easy to find our way when we are still. So I invite you to be with me now in our closing prayer for the day. We invite you all once again to be with your moms, say hello to them, and just simply be there for them in whatever way that you can on this day. It can be a special meal, it can be flowers, whatever. We talked about that earlier. So we invite you to be with them. Our prayer continues. Every day, from sunrise to the setting of the sun, God is and always has been. This one life that is God's life is my life right now. It is perfect and dwells within the being of each one of us. It is whole, it is complete, and we affirm our gratitude for all that takes place in our lives. And we realize that we are solely connected to our higher source, our higher power as God, which is the infinite good. So we acknowledge once again who we are and whose we are. We stand poised on the threshold of our greater good as we allow Spirit to work as us, managing our conditions for our highest and best good. We allow ourselves to be molded into our true, authentic self. And we breathe into the experience as we allow Spirit to set the tone for our higher good. We listen to the voice from within, which encourages us to be authentic and fearless. When we walk into the open door of perfect health, abundance, and soulful relationships which support us on this spiritual road to our greater good. We support and protect all, no matter what spiritual tradition or ethnicity. And today, we continue to offer prayerful support for all world leaders, knowing that they are transformed as they lean not to their own understanding, but rely solely on whispers from Spirit. This day we live in wonder and awe of the blessings bestowed upon this great nation, and we are thankful for the grace that has been bestowed upon us as emissaries of pure spirit. And that grace continues to abide in our land, which is a grateful nation and an always great nation. And so I release this word into the law and know that it is done. And so it perfectly is. Amen and amen. And we leave you this morning with Eddie Watkins Jr. singing I Fly. Have a good week, everyone.
I release the thing I'm clinging to. I release what's holding me, and I'm falling into God's love. I let it be. There's nothing more for me to do, nothing more to say. I'm just falling into God's love.